Hello, Packers fans, and welcome into PackersNews.com. I'm Kassidy Hill here at Lambeau Field getting ready for the Green Bay Packers versus New England Patriots, which will kick off here in about 2.5 hours. Thank you for joining me here in our office in Lambeau Field. A little bit of a different look today, not being able to be out on the field just yet. But thank you for joining me. We're going to kind of preview the game, hear from the guys from the locker room during the week on what they think about some different matchups. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, and I'll get to them here as we move along. A couple of notes just to get us started. Of course, it was announced yesterday that the Packers had elevated corner Keandre Thomas for today's game off of the practice squad. You know, they can do up to 2 elevations off of the practice squad for each game. That elevation seems to say that there is a thinking that maybe Jair Alexander will not be ready to go today, or if he is, it will not be in a full capacity. Inactives will come out 90 minutes before kickoff. So we've got about another hour here before inactives come out. Remember, Jair Alexander pulled his groin on the first defensive drive of the game last week against Tampa Bay. He was limited in practice on Wednesday. He did not practice on Thursday. He was able to practice on Thursday, but again, in a limited capacity. And so with being thin at corner, they did elevate Keandre Thomas for today. Keandre Thomas has always been on practice squad since joining the NFL last year. This will be his first game day elevation. Of course, when Jair went out last week, they were able to move Rasul Douglas from the slot to the outside and bring in Keyshawn Nixon to the slot when they were in nickel, and he played fairly well. So there should be some comfortability there if Jair can't go with what they have, and Keandre Thomas just being there as depth. Of course, the other news that came out last night, Matt immediately asked a question: what could non-football illness be? COVID-19 or what? Just one second. Excuse me. Sorry about that. We don't know if there is COVID. As you might have known, there has been a wave of quote-unquote illnesses that have kept some of the Packers out of practices and now games. Offensive lineman Josh Nyman, it was announced last night, will not be playing today, or I think he is questionable at last call for today's game with an illness. We don't know if it's COVID. That's what I was trying to say. It should be noted, though, that teams do not have to reveal if it is COVID this year like they did the past 2 seasons. So if a player contracts COVID and tests positive, then it would be labeled as a non-football illness. That is what kept Randall Cobb out of practice before the Bucs game, but then he was able to play versus the Bucs. There were some rumors on social media that from those in Cobb's family that might have been what it was, but we haven't been able to confirm that. And then Caleb Jones, offensive lineman rookie, was kept out of practice all week with an illness as well, and he is out for today with a non-football illness. It should be noted Caleb Jones was at practice on Friday. He was just not participating. He was on the bikes with the rehab group. If that means it was COVID and he had, tested negative when it was just in his 5-day reacclimation period, teams don't have to reveal that anymore. So take that for what you will. What happens if Josh Nyman can't go today? Well, one would assume that David Bakhtiari is no longer on a pitch count. That is what the case was last week versus the Bucs, where Bakhtiari and Nyman were switching out at left tackle. Bakhtiari played 56% of the offensive snaps. Nyman played 44%. If Nyman cannot go today, do they use Elton Jenkins in a rotation and then plug someone else in where Jenkins had been? Or do they just let Bakhtiari go as long as he can? I would think the latter, but the Josh Nyman development came up late Saturday night. We have not been able to speak to any of the coaches or players since then. So that is still in question. I think this could be a decent game to let David Bakhtiari go for, because it's a good competition without being Cam Jordan or Za'Darius Smith or someone like that bearing down on you. And so with this game getting you kind of revved up, you've got a home crowd behind you, and then being able to roll into the Giants next week, Jets, Washington. This is not the world beaters that the Packers have coming up. This could be a really, really good stretch to get David Bakhtiari completely acclimated back to going for 100% of the snaps before having to face Buffalo and Philadelphia and some of those tougher opponents that they have coming up in November. Speaking of, let's head into the locker room for this week. To hear from the players on what they are going to be facing with the Patriots. As we said, this is not necessarily the New England Patriots of old. It's more so in name only, although they are still coached by arguably one of the best coaches of all time, one of the best defensive minds of all time. But the Patriots defense is still headlined by Matthew Judon. He's someone that you have to have your eyes on at all time. He has 3 sacks so far this season. And Aaron Rodgers talked this week about needing to have an eye on him because he is who the Patriots have to negate the RPOs. And that is what the Packers have really leaned on through the first 3 games so far this season, is that RPO offense. So let's hear from Aaron Rodgers on Matthew Judon.
I mean, you can prepare for a lot of things, but everything could change in the game or before the game or halftime, third quarter, fourth quarter. They have a lot of scheme they can get to. They're very well prepared, very well coached, and you got to be kind of ready for every coverage, pressure, 0, drop 8, a lot of different things. A lot of respect for Coach Belichick. He's the best coach in the history of the game, I think. He's a great player. He's got 3 sacks, and 91's got 4, so they got a good pass rush. Plus, they give you a ton of different looks, with empty pressures and adjustments and checks of their own, delayed blitzes, spying, a lot of different things they can do. So we got to be aware of where he's at because he's a game wrecker. I'm not going to give him any ideas. I'm sure he'll look at what he thinks we do best and try and take away first and second options. And then have a plan B and a plan C and a plan D. I'm sure he hopes he doesn't get to, but I'm sure they'll have a great plan for us.
As we heard there, Aaron Rodgers saying that, Matthew Judon can be a game wrecker, so you have to kind of keep an eye on him at all times. But the Patriots under Belichick will employ a quarterback spy, which is not something that Aaron Rodgers always gets, but he is not afraid to use his legs. The mastermind behind Bill Belichick's defense is the ability to pinpoint in on what you want to do on offense the most and take that away. That so far this year has been Aaron Jones, but sometimes it's Aaron Jones, sometimes it's Romeo Doubs, sometimes you play the Vikings and it's no one. That could almost work in the Packers' favor a little bit this year, and that's something Aaron Rodgers mentioned, and it's what he was saying there towards the end about I'm not going to give Bill Belichick any ideas to tell him who it might be. But as we said, it so far this year has been Aaron Jones, and Aaron Jones knows that. He knows that coming into this game, he will be the focus of the defense, but he can't let that distract him.
Just be myself, do whatever I can to help my team win, make the most of all my opportunities. And if it's in pass protection, if it's running the ball, if it's being a decoy or catching the ball, whatever it is, just showing up and showing out.
What is the challenge of a Belichick coach defense?
Like you say, he tries to eliminate what you do best or what your game plan or strategy is, and he's seemed to figure it out for a lot of years. So we just got to be ready for that and be ready to adjust.
Be ready to adjust. That's something else that Aaron Rodgers mentioned this week. He said there's almost a myth of halftime adjustments. They're not necessarily what everyone thinks they are because they're not going to scratch a whole game plan at halftime, but adjusting in game could be the key, especially against a Belichick coach defense. I see a lot of you dropping some scores predictions in the comments. If you have any score predictions, go ahead and drop them in there too. We will we'll share a couple of those at the end of the show just to kind of see where everybody's head is at score-wise. If you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and drop them in the comments as well. Frank says, I hope the Packers are ready for some Belichick tricks. That is something that a few defensive players mentioned this week. Adrian Amos, Eric Stokes mentioned knowing that the Patriots are not afraid to run trick plays, and it's something that they have to be aware of at all times. Does that change with Brian Hoyer, though, is the question. Mac Jones has been the impetus of those trick plays so far this season. Mac Jones is out with a severe high ankle sprain. Can Brian Hoyer pull off some of those trick plays? If they're simpler ones like flea flickers, maybe so. he has been in the league for a decent amount of time. But that being said, the trick plays are something both Adrian Amos and Eric Stokes mentioned this week as something they know they have to watch out for with a Patriots offense. So that could be fun to watch. We haven't really had trick plays so far this season. The Bucs tried to pull one off last week, and I believe it was Rashawn Gary or Preston Smith. One of them sniffed it out right away and put the kibosh on that trick play that the Bucs were trying to run. While the trick plays may not be known until they happen, something that the Packers know the Patriots will do on defense as well is stack the box. They're not afraid to stack the box. They're not afraid to put 8 men in the box. And when you have a team like the Packers that are relying so much on Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, that could be a game changer. However, both Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon talked about that this week and essentially said they're kind of licking their chops and looking forward to it.
No, it definitely doesn't change your plan. You can't let someone deter you from your plan, but it does. You do have to make adjustments from that as well. But if they have everybody up, it's you get through that first level, it's room and space. So definitely be trying to get to that second level.
That gets me going. I mean, when I was at BC, all I ran against was stack boxes back in college. I'm used to that. Used to being like a volume runner. I'm always for it. I can get the ball in my hand, help out the team, or even be like a decoy in a situation. Doesn't really matter to me. But I'm used to the 8-man box. I've seen it before. I've seen it for a while. So bring it on.
Bring it on, he says. We've seen A.J. Dillon run against some 8-man boxes so far this season, and he seems to be able to pick his way through them. And so if that is something that the Patriots do, then I think the Packers have a decent running game to kind of negate that, because they have such different styles with both Jones and Dillon. They can go to Jones and have to stretch the edge, and then the Patriots are forced to kind of go wide, and then you can run A.J. Dillon straight up the middle into an open lane. And if they do stack the box, A.J. Dillon can still get his way through it. And if they stack it, it leaves the edges open. And if they stack it, it leaves the back end open as well. And then you're leaving the back end open for the 4-time MVP and one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, Aaron Rodgers. It's interesting to see how defenses have played this Packers offense so far this season as they sort of figure themselves out. And it can hurt to not have an identity, but it can also work in your favor a little bit if you start to get some reps and you start to fold these rookies in a little bit more, and then defenses don't know what you'll be able to do. So we'll see if this is again the case again today. Amy says offense needs a fast start and to stay focused in their second half, no sleeping in the second half. That fast start is what won the game for them last week versus Tampa Bay, to start off with 2 touchdowns and a really 3 straight great drives before that Aaron Jones fumble, which again, I'm sort of giving them a pass for. When you're getting sandwiched between 2 guys and one of those guys is Vita Vea, it's hard not to hold on to the ball. Or it's hard not to fumble the ball is what I meant to say. But the second half slugfest has been an issue. It's got them into trouble versus the Bears. It almost really got them into trouble last week. Can they come out and start the second half as fast as they start the first? Even versus the Vikings, they were willing to open that game with a 75-yard shot to Christian Watson. And if he had caught it, it's a whole different game as well. Versus the Bucs, they come out and they had the ball first in the second half. And I want to say they went 3 and out. And so a second half start, to Amy's point, can be just as crucial here as the first, or otherwise you're letting teams kind of chip back into these games. The Patriots, though, will have a little bit of a tough time chipping back into a game when no Mac Jones, as we said. But they do have some incredible running backs, Stevenson and Harris. I just completely blanked on his name. I'm so sorry. But some really strong running backs there for the Patriots that they will inevitably lean on today, knowing that Mac Jones won't be under center, that there's no Wes Welker, there's no former Patriots receivers of the past out there. But the defense knows that, and Rasul Douglas and Eric Stokes kind of talked about that as well. I mean, especially when they've got these strong running backs. What does that change for you if you're outside again?
Might do a couple more curls. And get my shoulders and arms right, tackle.
So you're getting ready for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Just know with two good running backs that can run it, cut it, do all the little stuff that they not like even on third down. You got to be very, very just aware because like they will still run the ball. They still good at running the ball. So you just got to be very much aware of everything that they running back got going on, and especially some of them like both of them actually is good at come out of the backfield catching balls. So you just got to be aware of that too.
Harris was the other running back's name. I apologize for getting that wrong. As he said, they're not afraid to come out of the backfield and catch the ball as well. Damien Harris so far this season has had 35 rushes for 160 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 receptions for 31 yards. And I believe Stevenson has almost exact numbers on the receptions as well. So they don't use them a lot, but when they do use them out of the backfield, they are effective. And so, can the Packers defense kind of watch those edges and make sure that they're not getting called on wheel routes and curls and little dink and dunks to the running backs as well. As I said, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments before we get ready to wrap up here in the next few minutes. Frank says, I'd like to see a bunch of Dillon between the tackle. That's really where he shines. And having David Bakhtiari back out there can make a huge, huge difference on that as well. If he wants to run off tackle, I know when you're saying between the tackle on the defense, but if he wants to run off tackle on his left side, that's kind of what they did on that first drive versus Tampa, and having David Bakhtiari out there for that is what made all of the difference in the world. Matthew asked, what does Pete or Ryan think of this game? We all picked the Packers to win this week. I know that we all picked them to lose versus Tampa Bay, and we were all proven wrong. We all picked the Packers to win this week. We were a little varied on scores. I know that Spoon and Pete thought it would be more of like a 24-14 or I think like a 24-17 game or what they said. You can find those on PackersNews.com in our predictions. I kind of leaned more towards it's either going to be more of a blowout or it's going to be a field goal game again, kind of like it was last week. I want to say I went 31-17, something like that, which is still not quite a blowout, but it feels a lot more manageable, a lot more breathing room. I know a couple of you put score predictions in here as well. Mohammed said Packers 35-19. I'm kind of in that same range as you. That's what I'm thinking, like low to mid 30s for the Packers, high teens for the Patriots. I kind of think that'll be our differential there. I know I saw another score. Matthew said Pack 20, Patriots 14. So you're thinking maybe a little bit more of a low-scoring game again, lots of field goals. That could be interesting. And then Matthew also said, I think the Patriots, that Rodgers can outsmart the Patriots defense. Outsmarting the Patriots defense is a task because they are coached by arguably one of the best defensive minds ever in the game. Both Rodgers and Matt LaFleur this week called Belichick the greatest coach in the sport. However, there is one other coach that you could possibly say has an argument there just on a college level, and that's Nick Saban. That's always been an argument, Belichick or Saban, and it's, of course, a coincidence that the two of them are best friends. But I wanted to know what the guys in the locker room thought as well. Who do they think is the better mind? Who is the better football mind? Who is the more dominant coach, Belichick or Saban? So went around this week and asked them that. They had some interesting things to say. Here they are.
That's different. You can't say.
Ooh, that's tough.
Belichick, highest level.
Belichick, hands down. I think just his ability to make do with the talent that he has and find a way to win games.
I'm gonna go with Belichick. No reason, just go with Belichick.
I'm gonna have to go with Belichick. The NFL, it's harder, it's tougher. What he's done there with the Patriots and Tom, it's been unmatched.
Belichick, Bill cool. He cool. I met him in the draft, man. He just talked so highly of me, man. I thought I was gonna go there the way he was talking about. I like Belichick.
I'm gonna go with Belichick. I think if you look at his resume, honestly, the way he carries himself, the way his organization has been ran, I think I got 5 Super Bowls, 6 Super Bowls. You don't catch him in the media. He's very dull, but I mean, you gotta respect a guy his caliber. Nobody plays around with him. You just see how he handles himself in the media, and he can win a ton of games.
Belichick.
Why?
Belichick because, I mean, he's doing it at the highest level. It's a salary cap, and it's hard year after year to be great. It's just tough to do. Whether you win the Super Bowl or not, it's hard to win games in this league, and he's won games, better than most coaches.
Belichick, and I don't really know either one of them, but got to give respect where it's due. Both, probably two of the best coaches ever. But to win, I'd say in the NFL, where it's like so much of a business and like people. I mean, now you got the transfer portal and stuff, so I'm sure that's not easy. But where guys are constantly going in and out, and you really never know what you're going to deal with. And to kind of like corral a group of like grown men with families and responsibilities and all that to have that many rings and stuff, I'm gonna go with Bill Belichick.
Nobody can rock the cropped off sweater like he can.
And yeah, he got swag. He got his little crop top. He wore the same thing every freaking game. So he's the original.
Yeah, of course the cutoff sweater is gonna have those.
Belichick, because it was done at an elite level.
Nobody's saying Saban.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of different ways to win college.
Who you pick?
I pick Saban.
Saban?
But tell him why.
Because I'm 0-3 versus Saban. I got to go and get my kudos to him. I never beat Saban.
So it's personal.
Okay. All right.
I done played against him 3 times and I'm 0-3. So I got to go with Saban.
Because he can beat you?
Hey, man, he can flat out beat me. I got a losing record. I got a terrible record versus him, so I'm going Saban.
Saban.
Why?
I played in the SEC.
Did you win?
No, but I played in the SEC.
I'm gonna say Saban, because he built that culture at Alabama. All the credit to Bill Belichick, but he did have Tom Brady, so that kind of, I feel like Nick Saban, he's getting new players every single year, so I'm gonna have to go Nick Saban.
Saban.
Why?
Because I almost went there. And I was committed there for a whole year.
Do you think he's done better than what Belichick has done just on a college level?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You can also say that because you beat him.
Who's been more dominant? Saban. Saban's been more dominant. Like college football, you know who winning that every year. So I guess I gotta say Saban.
So he has to say Saban. As someone who went to school at Alabama, I can sympathize with that. You know that they're just going to be a wood chipper and run straight through everyone every year. But of course, Bill Belichick, one of, if not arguably the best in the game as well, and having done it on a higher level, as a lot of those guys said, makes a big difference. We got a couple more questions coming in here. We've got a few more minutes, so let's take a couple more. Levi asked, is Big Dog going to catch a pass finally? You know what's so funny, Levi, is Aaron Rodgers manages to mention Mercedes Lewis every single time he talks about wanting to get him more involved. We want to get Big Dog more involved. We want to get him folded in there. We want to get him a pass. But then during the game, it just doesn't come. I don't think that's necessarily like a cognitive thought or purposely done. I think it's just kind of seeing how the game unfolds. They've been able to get Dobbs and Cobb and Lazard open and folded in where they need them. They saw Tunyon really come back over the past couple of weeks and kind of get his legs out underneath him. And, I think he had 8 catches or 6 on 8 last week, which is a big day for Tunyon coming back from that ACL repair. Is Mercedes Lewis really the piece to this offense that he used to be, that they need him to be, or is he sort of there to help lead these younger guys? I have to lean a little bit more towards the latter. He's still a great blocking tight end. He knows that's his role. He doesn't seem too upset about a diminished role, in his late 30s now. But Aaron Rodgers still does want to get him involved. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him get 1 or 2 receptions or at least targets if it's later in the game and they are up by 2 scores, just because Rodgers has sentimental reasons for wanting to keep Mercedes involved. But Mercedes sort of knows his role now, and he seems to really be okay with that. If a the game unfolds and it comes to him, that would be something. But I don't think they're necessarily trying to target him as much anymore, if that makes sense. Frank asked, how do you think the Patriots will perform this week? The Bills team seemed to play well after a loss. I can't remember them having Bills teams. Sorry, I thought you were saying Buffalo Bills, and I have this game on right here, and they are not doing too great. So I was like, really? They're not playing that great after their loss. Bill Belichick's teams seem to play well after a loss. I can't remember them having losing streaks. That is correct. However, again, they're doing so today without Mac Jones. I have to think that plays a large factor into it. They're playing on the road. They lost a lot of pieces on both sides of the ball. I mean, no J.C. Jackson. That means the back end's going to open up a lot more. When the back end opens up for Aaron Rodgers, I mean, watch out. I don't think they'll necessarily get blown out. But I don't think this is going to be a Packers-Patriots showdown like we might would have expected or wanted in the past. We've got another question on the tight ends. Ibarra hasn't gotten many turns either, so what's his role in the offense? Thought he would be our Kyle J for the Niners. Yes, however, something to consider. Ibarra is still decently young, and Kyle Juszczyk for the longest time for the 49ers was a blocking fullback. He is there as a fullback, and a fullback that catches the ball is rare. And Ibarra and Kyle Juszczyk had to work his way up to being a pass-catching fullback. Ibarra has been used as a fullback a lot. I was looking through my notes the other day from the past couple of games because I tracked each play, and I noted how many times Ibarra has lined up as a fullback, and it's been a decent number. I think he's into double digits now, lining up as a fullback in the backfield. So I think he can be a Kyle Juszczyk. You have to remember, I think it took a little bit longer for Kyle Juszczyk to get there than it might seem now. I wouldn't give up on Ibarra yet. I really think that he could become that Kyle Juszczyk. He's still right now labeled as a tight end, but with how they've been using him, and maybe that's part of the deep line him up as a fullback a lot of times, let teams think he's out there doing some block, and then throw him a swing pass that he can take down the sideline because he's big and physical too. We saw them get Tyler Davis out into open space versus Tampa Bay last week, and he got a 23-yard reception, and he almost scored because he was out in wide open grass, and it's just because teams just forgotten about him. They were able to sneak him out there. I think we can see them start to do that with Ibarra as well over the next few games, and especially with these next few games. Today, the Giants in London, the Jets, Washington. I think we've seen Matt LaFleur start to open his playbook up a little bit more, try some stuff with his defenses where he feels like it'll work, who he thinks it'll work against, and then put it on tape to force the Eagles and the Bills and the Dolphins to get ready for it. A good logistical question from Mohammed, he asked, is Ryan Woods done being in the post-game interview with you? I haven't seen him this season yet. So just some lineup notes. The post-games this season will always be Pete and I. Ryan is doing a lot of writing right after the game. He has two of the quickest turnarounds for writing, so he needs to focus on that. And then he will still be doing the podcast with Spoon and I after the game, which you can always find on Monday morning wherever you listen to your podcast. So post-game on the field, though, will be Pete and I for the rest of this season. So make sure you watch that. Well, with that being said, we are going to get ready to sign off here. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to follow Tom Silvertine's live blog on PackersNews.com leading up to, during, and after the game, and then stay tuned to PackersNews.com for full coverage of the game recap between the Packers and the Patriots. And as he said, you can find Pete and I on the field posting as well on the Packers News Facebook and YouTube Live. I've got one final question coming in, and I've got to address it. For some reason, I fear Hoyer more than Mac. That is a common sentiment this week, Levi. I have heard many people say I would rather take a hobbled Mac Jones. You don't want a full-strength Mac Jones, but a hobbled Mac Jones over an experienced Hoyer, it might be a better matchup. But that being said, Brian Hoyer, for all of his experience, for all of his knowledge of the game, is a statue in the pocket. And I think Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary are looking forward to that. So we'll see how it plays out. However it plays out, we'll have full coverage for you on on PackersNews.com. So stay tuned. Thanks so much, guys.